Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is to head over to this transfer market. I don't have a visible pointer, so I'll just put this icon over anywhere I'm clicking. We're in the market, and what we're going to do is to search for players. So I'll just go back to the recommend tab, and you'll notice that the prices for most of these players are over the roof, and we don't want that. So we'll just go ahead and use the search button instead. There are only two things we're going to change here: the OVR rating and the possession. For the OVR rating, you want to put a number dependent on your budget. I'm putting the min as 106 and the max as 108 because our Zoom budget for this video is below 100 M. If yours is above that, you can go ahead and put a larger number for the max. Now for the position, we're going to select striker, left wing, and right wing. Again, what you select here depends on your needs. Okay, we're going to go ahead and save and click search, and it should come up with some players. So once again, some of these players have a really high pricing, and am I the only one who's noticed that sometimes, or most times, it's because of how famous they are? But these prices aren't in our range, so we're going to just scroll through and look for players below 100 M. So we've got our first player at about 69.4, and what we're going to do is toggle on the watch player button, and then we're going to continue to search for other players below 100 M. Alright, so that being done, we need to go to our own player list so that we can be able to compare stats and know which player is best to buy. What I like to do is go to the players with the same position on my starting 11 that I like and take notes of their stats and then compare. So I've got a few new players that I just got using this method, but before then, I had a 106 Martinez card that I really liked, so we're going to check his details and use them as a comparison. For the LW and RW players, I will be using my 103 Barcola card and my 104 Greenwoods cards. But let's do strikers first, okay? Alright, so back to my watch list, we're going to start to compare these players. I'm going to leave the Martinez card right here towards the bottom left corner, and we're going to start with this guy called Statson. We're going to go to his details, and right off the bat you can see that he has a better pace, better shooting than Martinez. So whether you're going to choose him is going to depend on whether you want a faster player or a player with better dribbling or a player with better shooting. It just all depends on what you want. Obviously, we're not just going to select him because he has some better features than this present card that we're using, which is Martinez. We're going to check the other ones first and make sure that we are getting a bang for a buck.
I think it's also important to check the stamina as well as skill move of the player that you want to buy, because that determines how good they are on the pitch. For stamina, I think 4 stars is okay, and minimum 3 stars for skill moves. You would also want to check the height, player's foot, attributes, and the extra traits the player might come with, because that could be an added bonus to the player and could give you, more value for your money.
Another thing you need to do is to click on the purchase button so that you can see the availability of the player. For example, this player right here, we have 2 people who are willing to sell this player. One person is willing to sell this player at 69,200,000, and this other person is willing to sell this player at 76,500,000. So obviously you want to go for the person who's willing to sell it at a cheaper price as opposed to the person who's willing to sell it at a higher price. But sometimes there might only be one person who has this card and is willing to sell it, and we would have to compromise and just buy it at that price or wait for a later time when the price is going to drop. And also another thing you can take note is the charts that show you whether or not the value for this card is increasing or decreasing. So if it is increasing, it would be smarter to buy that card at that point, but if it's decreasing, you can wait for a little bit for the price to reduce if you feel like it's a lot of money, and then you can buy it. So basically that is all you need to know about buying cheap players on the FSM bull market. Let me know in the comments if you want to learn how you can use these players that you've bought to actually make a lot of money.